In this video, I will explain the origins of the Israelites, and how I connect them with the Pleiadians. In my view, once the Pleiadians had established a forward operating base in Europe, they started putting pressure upon the Anunnaki. Much like the modern-day North Korea situation. This incursion failed and the Pleiadians were taken prisoner. The Israelites were not Jewish. When they were slaves in Egypt, they were Hebrews. Judaism came after Moses. Mesopotamian sources refer to these Semitic groups as Westerners. This became Amorite, a name more familiar today. Their presence destabilized the Mesopotamian region, leading to several Amorite leaders taking power for themselves. Babylon, for example, was an irrelevant town until the Amorites took control. Hammurabi, Babylon's famous leader, was himself Amorite. The Amorites were not the same as the Israelites, but both were northwestern Semitic groups, and the Amorites are the oldest such group we have records for. So the general consensus is that the later Israelites were, one way or another, descended from the Amorites, or descended from the same area. Not all members of this group were necessarily Semitic. And it's also not likely that all members spoke the same language. Akkadian documents from the late 16th century BCE describe the Hebrew migrating out of Mesopotamia and entering voluntary, temporary bondage. Some may have lived in their own villages, some definitely lived in the cities. They worked as laborers and mercenaries, but were never treated as natives or citizens. They were always outsiders to some degree, always living in separate buildings or even areas. In a 15th century BCE Egyptian list of groups in the Transjordan region, there are 6 groups of Shasu. One of them is the Shasu of YHWH. A label that matches the Hebrew, Yahweh. This now connects Western Europe to the Israelites. Now I want to show you the connection with the Hebrews and Pleiadians. October 11, 1492, Christopher Columbus and Pedro Gutierrez, while on the deck of the Santa Maria, 35 miles away from land, observed a light glimmering at a great distance. It vanishes and reappeared several times during the night. Columbus described the light as a wax candle that rose and lifted up. When Columbus arrived, the inhabitants eagerly came to him, and asked if they were the people from the heavens. When he said no, they ignored him and told the others to come meet the people from the heavens. Weird coincidence, or were the Native Americans connecting the lights in the sky from the previous days with the arrival of Columbus and his men? The Ark of the Covenant and Atonement cover that was given to the Israelites by the Pleiadians is technology even today we do not understand. God said to Moses, "There, above the cover, between the 2 cherubim that are over the Ark of the Testimony, I will meet with you, and give you all my commands for the Israelites. Tell your brother Aaron not to come whenever he chooses into the most holy place, behind the curtain, in front of the atonement cover on the ark, or else he will die, because I appear in the cloud over the atonement cover." Above the ark and the atonement cover, God appeared in his glory, in an unapproachable light. Because the ark was God's throne among his people, it was a symbol of his presence and power with them wherever it went. There are quite a number of miracles recorded in the Old Testament surrounding the ark and saw with the presence of the ark. The waters of the river Jordan divided so the Israelites could cross on dry land, and the walls of Jericho fell so that the Israelites could capture it. Yet the ark could not be treated with irreverence, because it was also a symbol of God's judgment and wrath. When the Israelites fought their enemies, the Philistines, during the time of the prophet Samuel, they disregarded the commands of the Lord, and took the ark out to the battlefield, with them summoning God's presence. God caused the Philistines to win the battle, and the glory departed from Israel, for the ark of the Lord was taken. However, God showed his power to the Philistines, when he caused their idol, Dagon, to fall to the ground, when the ark was placed next to it. And several Philistine cities were plagued heavily, when the ark was in their midst. Ultimately, the ark was returned to the Israelites. God had provided this bread-like food for the Israelites when they grumbled during the wanderings in the desert. It was bread from heaven. He continued to provide the food daily and faithfully, but the people were not one bit thankful. They complained and wanted something else. The pot of manna was an uncomfortable reminder that despite what God had provided for them, the Israelites had rejected God's provision. Although it is often referred to as the Seven Sisters, there are in fact thousands of stars in the Pleiades. Used 735 times, 54 times in the book of Revelation alone. The number 7 is the foundation of God's Word. There are 7 days in a week and God's Sabbath is on the 7th day. The Bible, as a whole, was originally divided into 7 major divisions. There are at least 7 men in the Old Testament who are specifically mentioned as a man of God. They are Moses, David, Samuel, Shemaiah, Elijah, Elisha and Igdaliah. In the book of Revelation there are 7 churches, 7 angels to the 7 churches, 7 seals, 7 trumpet plagues, 7 thunders and the 7 last plagues. The first resurrection of the dead takes place at the 7th trumpet, completing salvation for the church. There are 7 annual holy days, beginning with Passover and ending with the last great day, the day after the Feast of Tabernacles ends. The cycle of the holy days is completed in 3 festival seasons by the 7th month of the sacred calendar. Jesus performed 7 miracles on God's holy Sabbath day. We also find reference to the Pleiades in Islam. Usually there is a connection with the devil. There are 7 verses in the first chapter in the Quran. During the rituals of Hajj, the pilgrimage to Mecca, pilgrims walk around the Kaaba 7 times. The Kaaba is the most sacred site of Islam. Muslims believe it was rebuilt by Abraham and his son Ishmael. Pilgrims are also required to throw 7 pebbles at each of the 3 walls representing the devil. The stoning of the devil is performed at Mina, just outside of Mecca. It is told that Muhammad one night flew on the winged steed, named Barak, from Mecca to Jerusalem. He was accompanied by the Archangel Gabriel. He landed on the Temple Mount. His journey continued from the Temple Rock through the 7 heavens until he met Allah. He met earlier prophets in each of the heavens. There are 7 heavens in Islam. And also there are 7 gates of hell. Jahannam is the Quranic word for hell. The unbelievers, the followers of the devil, and the jinns, will be driven to Jahannam, which is a place of fire that keeps burning at all times. Jahannam has 7 gates, which are open at all times. Hell also has 7 layers, and sinners are sent to different layers, according to their sins. In the Hindu religion, again evidence can be found of the Pleiades. Hindu scriptures declare that our Earth is but one in a series of several planets. In all there are said to be 14 planets, or worlds, out of which 6 are above Earth, and 7 are below the Earth. According to Hindu scriptures, There are 15 planets in all. Also in the well-known Gayatri mantra, 7 worlds are mentioned. The Mundaka Upanishad refers 7 tongues and 7 form of Agni. It is also believed that during our spiritual practice 7 energies awake. The mother goddess, Dugra, manifested herself into 7 forms during a fight with one of the demons called Raktabia. The number 7 is not only very sacred in Vedic, but even in the numerology world and other cultures.
Ugly motherfucker.